Hey there, Kimberly here with Knit for Brains, and today I'm going to show you part one of getting ready, the preparations to make this J.W. Anderson Harry Styles sweater, so stay tuned. Alright, so first things first, I'm going to walk you through not only how to knit this, but also I'm going to give you suggestions for stitches if you want to crochet this sweater. We're making this Harry Styles J.W. Anderson scrap patchwork cardigan, and it's looking kind of like this. Now, I was actually fortunate enough to find the actual pattern online, and J.W. Anderson, the company, it's a clothing line, very nice clothing line, was nice enough to actually include the pattern for free. So I'm using this as sort of a guideline, but I'm finding as I'm going to start going through the pattern, I'm going to start to kind of go off-roading just a little bit. But what I was really looking for was the weight of the yarn, some of the stitch ideas, and also the dimensions. So I wanted to make sure I had all the right measurements, and then I might decide to go a little bit freewheeling. Will I want to go crochet or knit or whatever? So first things first, I'm going to show you what I've got and how we're going to get started. A couple weeks ago, I bought this yarn on WeCrochet, and it's a swish yarn, and I got it bulky weight, which I don't typically use a lot of. This is actually a weight of a 5, and I got a bunch of colors that I really have never used before. So what I was thinking, I had no idea. Literally, I did not know this sweater existed when I got all this yarn. But as I'm looking at all this yarn, I knew that I wanted to use all these colors together. They kind of reminded me of like fall. They were kind of funky. They were kind of poppy. We've got some reds, some autumns, some what they call allspice. Some really, really cool colors. Definitely reminded me of fall. Not my typical go-to colors, but I wanted to give it a try, and I really wanted to use this bulky weight. And so I was looking online trying to find ideas, and I found this sweater. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's almost using exactly the same colors that I have over here. And so I knew that I had found the right thing. And with some research, I was able to actually find the pattern, which I will go ahead and include because the pattern was free to me. The inspiration behind this pattern is sort of a childhood, kind of like a patchwork quilt, something that you might have for the kids, or maybe you had in your own childhood, very bright, very primary colors, as you can see here. What's really great about this is that it's perfect if you are a novice knitter or crocheter. If you really don't know what stitches you're doing, you can do all of these patches in one stitch. You can change it up. You can even mix in some crochet and some knit if you really wanted to. So I'm going to show you the measurements for the knit, which you can then translate over to crochet, and you can do either one you want. I'm going to offer you some suggestions. This video right here is really just about prepping and showing you what I've got. So the first thing I did was I took out all of my swish DK. This is a great project if you have some stash yarn or some partial skeins that you want to try to get rid of. You can make this any color you want. This again is more in the primary colors with some fall colors moving in, but you can also do this in muted colors, in blacks and whites and grays. You can do it in browns. You can do it in blues and pinks, anything you want to do. It's really just wherever your mind decides to take you. I would recommend, and this is what the designer recommended as well, she actually used a weight of 6, which is a super bulky weight, and she used 100% wool. This yarn that I have here is a weight of 5, superwash merino wool. Really, really soft. I wouldn't probably go any lower than a weight of a 5. If you do, I would then consider double stranding. This sweater screams being thick and bulky and oversized and just real comfy to wear. So this isn't going to be good for like a fingering weight or a weight of a 2. A 4 would be the minimum, and even that I would probably just go ahead and double strand it. But this is a weight of 5. So what I did was I just came down on my hook size and I went with the weight that it recommended. Now again, this is a swish. It's by WeCrochet and Knit Picks. It's a bulky weight. It's 100% fine superwash merino wool. And it recommends for the knitting needles a number 10 to 11, and for the crochet hooks anywhere between a K through an M, which would be an 11 to an 8 to an 11 on the sizes. So basically it shows you right here. So I would say that if you have a bunch of yarn at home and you're really not sure what to do with it, follow the recommendation for the hook size or your needle size as opposed to what they do here in the pattern. As long as you get the measurements of the squares right, you're going to be fine. So I balled up all of my yarns, these guys here. I am using my knitting needles. These are my Luca circular knitting needles, even though I'm just doing panels, but I also have my WeCrochet. If I was going to use a crochet hook with this particular yarn, I would probably go with either a size M. These are both size M's, or probably one size down, maybe a J or a K or something along those lines. So this is a size 7 and these are 9s. And this is a size 6. So somewhere between like a 7 to an 8 would probably be appropriate for this as well. You want it to be really nice and blousy. You could drop it down if you wanted to. This is a size K. This is a 6.5. So this would probably work as well. So somewhere probably in this range right in here. Anywhere between a size 6.5 or like a size 6 up to maybe like a 7. Any one of these three would probably work really well for this yarn. Now, if you're going up to a 6 weight, like a bulky weight yarn, then you're going to want to go into your larger sizes. But again, you want something to be really nice and blousy and loose. In the needles for my knitting, I am using a size 10 on these guys here. The pattern itself calls for 18 skeins. So there's 9, 10, 18 skeins of a super chunky weight yarn with about 100 grams or 90 meters per length. So rather small skeins. So again, it's really going to depend on what kind of yarn you're going to be using. So here, it's a one size cardigan. There's not small, medium, or large. The flat body width is 84 centimeters. The total length is 60 centimeters. And the sleeve length is about 48 centimeters. So as long as you're hitting those numbers, then you really don't have to worry about what kind of hook you're using, as long as you're hitting those measurements. And again, it's going to be a really blousy, kind of a loose fitting cardigan. Here it also calls for using an Aran weight yarn, 3 of 100 gram balls in red, and that's going to be for the border. So again, you can use it in any color you want to, but so it's a little bit less on the weight for the actual ribbing on the border, on the cuffs, and then also down below here. So each square is going to be knitted and or crocheted in 15 stitches. So here you see I've got just a plain old garter stitch square, and just making sure that I have 18 stitches across, and the dimension down here is going to be 14 centimeters down. Now this here is the same thing, but of course I'm going to block it. It's going to stretch a little bit. This is what they call a jersey knit stitch. So it's a little bit of a ribbing, but it's got some nice elasticity to it. And then this here is another similar garter stitch. So I'm going to block these strips before I decide to put it all together. The other thing that you're going to need is obviously a tape measure. And I just continue to measure the length of my square. So this square is right about 5 inches. So it's going to be 5 inches long by about 5 inches wide. And if you're working in centimeters, it's going to be 14 centimeters long by 14 centimeters wide. As long as you get those measurements, you're going to be fine. And then you just stitch them together as you go. So it's just a nice, easy strip. And then each strip has 6 panels in it. Now, that's for the main part of the back, but as you start moving up into the shoulders, we're actually going to cut those down a little bit. So you're also going to need some scissors. And I like to draft out some notes. So I've got myself my notebook right here. I always like to write down what yarn I'm using. So this is where I take my yarn labels, and I might write down here what I did, or I'm going to include the pattern, but I'm just going to go ahead and write inside here, Harry Styles Cardigan. We're going to call it the Stylish, and I'm going to write down here below J.W. Anderson. So if I ever lose my pattern, which I am going to keep here in the book, I'll know where it is. Then I go ahead and I take at least one of the labels and I include it in here. Otherwise, if I have all of them and I'm changing colors, I'm going to put them in a little Ziploc bag like this, and I'm going to keep one label from all the different colors, which is probably what I'm going to do here so I can remember which colors that I've got. Now, these are all the different knits. So basically this is one of the panels. And then over here, it tells me how to make each one of these different stitches, these different squares. So there's basically 6 squares that are just repeated throughout the entire pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So it's got a jacquard, it's got a jersey slip stitch, what they call a reverse B stitch, which is very similar to a garter stitch with a back loop yarn over. This is a basic garter stitch, this is a double moss stitch, and then this is a moss stitch, which is just knit 1, purl 1, back and forth across. So these are all the knit stitches. Now, what if I was going to do this in a crochet, I'll write down knit here, and then I'm going to write down crochet over here. And then what I'll do is I'll write down the colors of the yarns here and then which stitch I'm going to use down the center. So the first one here is my red, and this is just a suggestion. You might decide throughout the pattern that you want to change up the red. So I've got my red, which I know is called Serrano, which is my red. Now, for the knit stitch, I'm going to do the jersey slip stitch. And then for my crochet, if I wanted it to look really similar, I would probably do like a back loop only. And I know that each stitch, each block is going to be 14 centimeters by 14 centimeters. And that there's going to be 6 panels, 6 squares per panel. Now this is called, this color here is called copper. So I'll go ahead and write here copper. I'll write Serrano here, which is the red. And the copper is kind of a rust color. So this color here, I'm gonna do in a garter stitch. So over here on my knit side, I'm gonna write garter stitch. And then over here for my crochet, it could be anything from like a single crochet, it could be even a herringbone. And I kind of like the look of a herringbone, so I'm probably gonna do a herringbone for the crochet. Now my next yarn here is called Marigold. I know that. This is going to be my yellow. So here I'm going to put down Marigold. Here it's offering to do a double moss back stitch. So that's going to be double, and it gives you all the instructions here. For my crochet, I'm probably going to do like a basket weave stitch. Would be really cool because it's kind of giving it that sort of a basket weave stitch. I would do a small basket weave stitch for the crochet. So we're going to go basket weave. And maybe I would do like 2 instead of a 4. It just depends on what's going to be happening with the yarn and how big it's going to be. This color here is my Allspice. Now this is the one I have the most of, so I'm probably going to save this for maybe the borders around the edges. So this one here is called Allspice. And it's kind of a light rust. And I'm gonna do the border, which is basically just going to be a rib, which is a knit 1, purl 1. And you can do the same thing in crochet. So I'm gonna do border rib, and you just do back loop, front loop. My next color that I did get, now I don't have any black. The pattern does call for some black, which I don't actually have, and that's okay. I'm not, because again, you can do anything you want with this. So I actually have this color here, and it's sort of an oatmeal color. It is called Nutmeg Heather. So I'm going to put this in here. It can be natural, it can be white, it can be anything you want. It can be black. It's just good to add a little bit of contrast if you have it. So this is my cream or black. Okay, and on this color here, I might just do like a basic knit stitch. I actually, here the pattern calls for using it as a basic moss stitch, which is really easy. So I'll go ahead and put in moss stitch. For my crochet, I'm probably just gonna do like a single crochet stitch. Just one single crochet back and forth across, because it's gonna give it a really cool ribbing look, just like this guy here. So that's basically kind of like a moss stitch. Next, I've got some really cool greens. And again, the pattern does call for greens. Now I have 2 separate greens. This one is called Rainforest. And it's sort of a deep teal color. For this one here, I'm going to do the reverse B stitch, which looks like this guy right here. And basically it's a knit with a knit one, and then you go into the back loop just to give it a little bit more of that diagonal going on here. So that is the reverse B stitch. For this, a herringbone would also be a really good idea. It looks very similar to the garter stitch. So you could do garter stitch, you could do a herringbone again here. You could do, let's put down a herringbone. I really like that stitch. And as long as you don't put them next to each other, it's really not going to be a problem. I mean, even if you do, like this here is the, this is the reverse B stitch. And then I'm putting it right next to a garter stitch. So you can see they're really pretty similar. This just has a little bit of a backwards slant going on, whereas this one doesn't. That's pretty much the only difference. So again, just find a stitch that you like, that maybe you want to try out and kind of see how it works. And this green here is called Dublin. So it's more of like a kind of a, maybe a Kelly green, but not, more of a muted Kelly green. So this is called Dublin. We're just going to call this green. Now for this one here, I did it in the garter stitch here so I can switch it around. I might actually end up mixing it with like a red and kind of doing that jacquard look. So for the green, I'm going to do maybe like just a regular, I could even just do like a regular knit stitch, which is a stocking knit. Knitting one forward and then garter stitch the next. So that would be a stocking knit stitch. And then you could do something like another basket weave. You could even do something like this honeycomb. So the book that I have here is called The Indispensable Stitch Collection for Crocheters. This is a great book. It is all about all different kinds of stitches. Here you've got all the different basket weaves. So when I'm doing basket weave on the sweater, I might want to do like this smaller basket weave right here. It's got even more like a Jacob's ladder would be really pretty. This one here is called Dashes and Ribs. I'll include the link below for this particular pattern. This one here, look at the zigzags and stripes. So there's all kinds of ideas. And you could just really make it your own. Make it as interesting with all the different colors that you want. Have a good crochet or knit, some kind of a glossary, some kind of like a collection of stitches in your arsenal. Great thing to have. So I'll include this one. I would just sort of page through it and go, I like this stitch. I'm going to add this to it. You can even do kind of like a really cool cable stitch. So just figure out the different stitches that you want to do, lay them all out, and then if you want to, you can even, sometimes I will pull out some crayons and maybe look at some of the different colors and then draft out what I'm doing here. Or I could even, take a strip out of this and then just put it here in the book. So I'm just about ready to get myself started. I've written down the pattern. I've written down where I found it. Again, if you can have a copy of it, definitely you want to keep that with. I'm going to keep all of my yarn wraps together so I know the yarn that I use and the colors that I use. That's really important. If I'm using more of one color, I'm just going to go ahead and take the one wrap and then I'll just write down like ×3 or something like that. And then I'm going to keep them all together. Then I wrote down how big each square needs to be. So either in centimeters or in inches. And then again, you can write down, like I know that each panel is going to have 6 strips in it. And then here's a really good diagram right here. And it's going to show me all the different colors going into it. And then it's going to show me the different sides. So since I have it all written down here, I'm not going to put it here in the book. But if I didn't, I would have, like here it shows me, this is the back. I've got 6 blocks in 4 different panels. All right, so let's get cracking. I've got all my yarn balled up. Pull all the yarn that you think you're going to use, pull it all together, make sure you've got enough, look at your colors and just kind of like lay them out and then just decide what you think is going to go together well. So I'm making these panels and I'm kind of changing it up as I go. And that's what's so great about this pattern. It even tells you when it comes to these little edges here, like the tassels as you change colors, you kind of want to leave these intact because these are actually going to start coming through in the sweater. You're going to see these coming through. It's a very loose, artistic, creative. If you look here at some of these pictures, it's all about the loose ends hanging out. I mean, making sure that they're tied off properly. But it's really this artistic, super fun, like don't be afraid of this pattern. Here you can see how it's got some exposed stitches here. It's got some exposed colors. It's got a really cool jacquard thing going on here. Some of the colors are right next to each other. So there's really no right or wrong way to do this. It's just whatever strikes you. That's why I thought it's so great as a scrap sweater. It just so happened that I had all of these really beautiful yarns that I just got from WeCrochet, this beautiful superwash merino wool. If you have it, I would probably strongly encourage you to use a natural fiber for this sweater. Acrylic doesn't always breathe well, and this is going to be kind of drapey, and it's really, really soft, and I expect I'm going to be wearing this quite a bit. So maybe use a cotton if you've got it. If you're not into wool. If you have acrylic and that's all you've got, great. What I would strongly suggest is if you do have acrylic, I wouldn't mix the fibers. I would not do like wool and acrylic and a cotton. I would really try to stay true to the fibers, because when you wash it up or when you're going to block it, the different fibers are just going to make the garment hang differently. And so you don't want it to hang different. Try to stay with the same fiber and definitely like the same weight, except for, of course, the ribbing we're going to do on the side. So whatever you end up using, whatever the scraps are, just make sure that you're using the same weight and the same fiber. That way your sweater or your garment's going to be really cohesive, and it's all going to kind of hang together right. If you wash it and you wear it, it's all going to wash up the same way, because that could be kind of a disaster. So as you can see, I've already finished 2 panels. I'm finishing up my 3rd. So this one here just has some garter, and then this is that jersey knit stitch, which again, I'm going to block it and it's going to stretch it out, but it does curl up. So it looks like it's not even. It's same amount of stitches. It's all good. It's just that it's going to have to stretch a little bit. And then I did another garter here. This is a double moss kind of a stitch. That was pretty cool. And then I just worked into a garter, and then I finished up down here with a moss stitch on this panel. This one here, I did a little bit of jacquard work. That's what they had in the pattern. Not really sure what that's supposed to be, but over on this one, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go funky, and I'm actually doing like a checkerboard look to it. And so just have fun. Just totally have fun with it. It is probably the coolest, best scrap cardigan pattern I have found anywhere. I'm super excited to make this, and it's working up really, really fast. So I expect to have this thing finished in probably like a week or 2. And then we're just going to add up. But even like, if you want to get if you have some funky buttons or something along those lines, just make this as cool and as funky as you want. I have seen it now on Pinterest and Instagram and all the different social medias. I've seen it in these colors. I've seen it in different colors of pale pinks and reds, and I've seen it in some blues, some warm colors, some cool colors, some neutral colors, some blacks and whites. Like, it's just absolutely endless. So I was going with these colors because that's what I had, and I have enough to actually make this whole entire sweater, and I'm super, super excited about it. So this is step 1. In the next tutorial, I'm going to bring you the panels that I've done, and I'm going to go ahead and block them. And then we're going to sew them up together. I'm going to show you how to do the mattress stitch. So once you've finished all of your panels and you've sewn them all together, which basically you just kind of weave them in together, then let's get back together and we're going to show how we're going to sew it together. And then we're going to do the sleeves and the front too. All right, so that's it for right now. This is part 1 of the Harry Styles Stylin with Harry cardigan, brought to you by J.W. Anderson. And I'll include a link to this pattern in the notes below, along with the supplies that I use. This is the yarn that I use. This is by WeCrochet. It is their bulky weight swish yarn, 100% superwash merino wool. My all-time favorite hooks, all time. These are my ergonomic O-Fire hooks. and also my Luca knitting needles as well. So you'll have all the supplies that you need, or just use your scrap yarn. Again, if you've got a nice acrylic yarn that you want to use, that's fine too. This is Kimberly with Knit for Brains, and I'll be back with you really soon showing you part 2 of this cardigan. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you soon.